Here's a brief history lesson as we press play on today's Jamaica Magazine. 1494, a European exploration to Jamaica, a search for God, gold and glory, and the expense, a genocide, but also the exploitation of natural resources, whether high-value resources such as gold or scarce ones such as fertile land. Hi, I'm Theodore Henry and welcome to today's show. It's International Day for preventing the exploitation of the environment in war and armed conflict. We'll share with you more on what this day truly means, just why our environment is so important to us, and the need to preserve it. Stay with us.
For over 40 years, the European Union and Jamaica have enjoyed a partnership built on shared values, trust and respect. Through a joint cooperation program, the EU is supporting Jamaica to achieve its development goals outlined in Vision 2030. Key areas of support include justice, financial reform, poverty reduction, health, human rights and democracy, environmental protection and agriculture, Jamaica and the European Union, promoting sustainable development and creating opportunities for all Jamaicans.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Wednesday, November 6. The House of Representatives has approved a Joint Select Committee of Parliament report to institute stronger penalties for sexual offences. The recommendations are proposed for the Sexual Offences Act, Offences Against the Person Act, Domestic Violence Act, and the Child Care and Protection Act. Gender Affairs Minister Olivia Grange outlined the suggestions on Tuesday. They include a minimum sentence of 20 years where crimes are committed against persons deemed to be most vulnerable. It's also recommended that the fines for breaching a protection order be increased from $10,000 to $500,000. In addition, the Joint Select Committee wants to widen the category of persons who can apply for protection order on behalf of victims to include the minister responsible for gender. Minister Grange says there is also full support of the proposal to amend the law to make it quite clear that no to sex means no, even in a marriage.
I believe that these amendments will prove to be effective in deterring acts of violence against the most vulnerable, who have for too long been considered easy targets by those who would wish to prey on them.
Other proposals are to protect children in the digital space, establish a sex offenders registry database, and add predatory sexual assault and seduction of children under 16 as new offenses.
I am satisfied that this review is a comprehensive one which reiterates the government's commitment to tackling the monster of gender-based violence.
A submission will be made to Cabinet for drafting the appropriate pieces of legislation. The Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC, has signed a contract with El Hydro Company to help reduce its oil bill. Transport Minister Robert Montego says this will also reduce cases of oil theft within the company and the amount of oil usage.
They are using technology so that we can reduce our oil bill, the lubricant bill. They have a closed filtration system that they fit onto the buses. So rather than we have 6 oil changes per year, we now have 2 oil changes per year.
He adds that under the partnership, the JUTC no longer stores its oil. Minister Montego was speaking on Thursday during his ministry's staff meeting. The Transport Authority will be purchasing 4 driving simulators and donating them to schools across the island. It's in keeping with the Transport Ministry's goal of having driving simulators in every high school.
So that a child who graduates at 16, they know the basics of good driving. And then they can go apply for their license. At least when you have them on the road, you know that they are good drivers.
The Transport Minister says the driving simulators will initially be donated to schools where students do not necessarily have access to private vehicles. The Agriculture Ministry has endorsed a new agreement that guarantees a market for the red peas grown by farmers from St. Elizabeth and St. Catherine. Last Friday, the farmers signed a contract with Homegrown Produce Limited, which has committed to purchasing their red peas if they increase production.
This initiative that you have embarked upon to resuscitate and increase production of red peas is therefore to be lauded and you have the full support of the Ministry of Agriculture to strengthen your prospects in achieving your desired goals.
During the function, Minister J.C. Hutchinson provided 30 bags of fertilizers to the farmers from burnt ground in St. Elizabeth. He also announced other measures by his ministry to ensure the domestic demand for red peas is satisfied by local farmers.
We are going to be putting red peas on the program along with Irish potato so that we can have intercropping. As you are growing your Irish potato, we are going to have the program rolling out where you also produce your red peas. So from the same plot of land, you are getting 2 dividends.
The St. Elizabeth Infirmary will be rehabilitated as part of activities to commemorate Local Government and Community Month. Upgrading works to the infirmary, which is based in Santa Cruz, will include the installation of a therapeutic park and renovations of the building. Residents of the facility will also be treated on Wednesday, November 13. Local Government Minister Desmond McKenzie says other key events for the month include a Youth Mayors Forum on November 20 at the Montego Bay Convention Center. In addition, junior mayors across the country are to receive $750,000 each to undertake developmental projects within their communities.
We intend also to use Local Government Month, going right through until January, to have an extensive educational program to sensitize the country about disaster preparedness and what our responsibility as citizens will be to that task.
Local Government and Community Month 2019 is being observed under the theme Building Resilient Communities Through Local Governance. Mr. McKenzie was speaking on Monday at the official kickoff ceremony for the month-long observance. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
When you're on the road, take your time. When you're on the road, bear this in mind. When you're on the road, you could save a life when you're on the road.
We lose valuable pieces of our environment to things like water pollution, deforestation, or even soil erosion. But our government is making every effort to nurture the soil. Here's Farm Tech nurturing the soil.
To provide jobs for persons, it lets me feel like, I'm really contributing to the economy of the country. It's just a good feeling. And to produce the quality products, to compete with the international market, and to produce goods that actually look much better than imported goods is a good feeling for me.
Agro Investment Corporation continues to scout for lands in Jamaica that are best suited for agricultural production through the National Land Agency and the Commission of Lands, and also with private enterprises. So wherever there is unused government lands or private lands, Agro Investment Corporation will profile these lands.
So by now, we should all be aware of the benefits of leasing lands from the government. But once you've leased the land, how do you maximize returns? Well, knowing the soil type is important. For instance, did you know that over in the Ebony Park Spring Plain Agro Park, the soil type impacts the kinds of crops that can be planted there?
Ebony Park Agro Park is about 1,100 acres, and likewise the Spring Plain, and that's roughly all the lands within there. There are areas of non-arable areas, but there are arable areas. Arable areas amount on the Ebony Park side to about 800 acres. There's a lot of different soil types, predominantly Bonegate, clay loam. Basically anything can grow here. Once it requires a pH of about 6.5 to about 7. There are pockets where the pH might fall to about 5.5, 5.8. So if there's a crop that needs to be having a lower pH, soil could be amended to facilitate that. But basically anything will grow.
So let's revisit our checklist. We've applied and submitted all the necessary documentations, including proof of our capacity to invest in the land. We've learned about soil types and pH balances in the soil. What's next after you've been approved?
They would assign you a plot number, or they'd give you a designated area to where you would be assigned. I guess you'd view it to see maybe what you'd need to do. If it needs a bit of clearing, you might want to look at that, how you go about doing that. You'll be advised as to the best way to get that done. You might want to go to the NIC because our water is pressurized, and so the NIC supplies it. So a part of your contract would give you the ability to go to NIC with tenure of land, and then they would then come and put your meter on so that you get ready supply for water. We also offer tractor services to plow, harrow, farrow, and other activities that you might want, rotovate and so on, for your lands. So you'll be able to do that. Once you do that, we could tell you of maybe different cycles, crop cycles, where you might want to plant, best time for certain crop. You might be able to go out of these seasons, but at least we'll be able to tell you that this crop does well in a particular season. The risk might be higher in another season, but so might be the returns. So you could get advice as to that. So local advice will be there ready for you.
Meet Henry Givens, a youth farmer who is a beneficiary of this initiative. He started out acquiring just 5 acres of land, and today he is up to 15. Givens plants various crops at different stages, including Scotch bonnet pepper, sweet potato, and Maruga red watermelons, as well as slicing and plummy tomatoes.
Leasing land from the government, it is actually beneficial, and at the point where I would actually want to lease more if available. You know, I am not employed otherwise, so it allows me to take care of my 2 babies, and it allows me to eat and survive. So it is something very beneficial, I would say. Life here at Ebony Park, it's twofold. It's good sometimes and sometimes it's challenging. One, persons around, some persons, they know what to do with their crops, for example, and they don't want to do it. So sometimes, we have a lot of pest and disease outbreak, and some persons just don't want to invest the funds or do what is right to actually, make the agro park much better and a much cleaner environment. And then, also, sometimes there's a major issue with the whole irrigation system. It costs a lot sometimes, because even if you look into the pepper field, sun scalding is a result of a lack of water supply sometimes. But it's a blessing, and there is not only negative, because once you have irrigation, then without the irrigation, I couldn't do anything like this, none at all.
Farming can be an expensive venture, but it's also beneficial. As a youth farmer, the challenges may not even be financial.
Some older persons, because they're so, relatively young, they don't want to work with you because they said they don't want to work with a younger person. However, sometimes it's good to know that, for some persons that really can't afford to go into the farming as deep, that you can provide them with not only a job, but you can also assist them with technical advice to improve their smaller production that they do as well. My advice to younger farmers or investors is that they should not be discouraged or swayed from agriculture. It is something that can be beneficial, and is a good way to make a good foundation for themselves and their families. So it's something that they should look into and be strong about it. That's the only way we can build our country.
Hey there. So, did you know that plastic bags were introduced to supermarkets in 1977? The production of plastic bags are toxic to the environment, as the process involves the use of petroleum, natural gas, and other chemicals. 160,000 plastic bags are used globally every second, and 5 trillion are produced yearly. Side by side, they can encircle the world 7 times. Plastic degrades after 700 years and will only fully degrade in 1,000. This means that all the plastic that has ever been produced has not degraded. It remains toxic even after it breaks down. 13 million metric tons of plastic end up in the ocean every year, and at least 800 species worldwide are affected by marine debris, of which 80% is plastic and is mistaken for food by turtles, fish, and other marine life. Research has shown that fish caught for human consumption contain plastic nanoparticles. An average family will use 60 plastic bags on 4 visits to the supermarket, and only 1 to 3% are recycled worldwide. Play your part in advancing your welfare and that of the earth. Support the ban on plastic. Reduce, reuse, recycle, and get eco-friendly bags for you and your 1877. After the process of nurturing the soil, we can reap many of our locally grown plants for medicinal purposes. You remember the fever grass or the cerasee?
Necessity is the mother of invention, and we had to find a way to survive. And so for the plants, the natural gift of the Creator, we could rely on it to guide us into what we needed to do. I didn't know about Fenzik and your pharmaceutical things. I know about bush. So if I had a headache, I knew as a child that I should use the leaves of 3 mackerel bush and a piece of cloth and tie it on my head, and the pain would go.
The use of herbs as medicine. While this age-old practice has been overlooked by many, the Institute of Jamaica saw it fitting to mount an exhibition on medicinal plants of Jamaica and their uses, bringing to the present the medicinal habits used in the past.
So at least 330 plants have been found growing in Jamaica, have been identified as having medicinal value. Of that 334, at least 193 have been assessed for their biochemical activities, and 23 of those are actually endemic plants.
Not every plant, though in its natural form is good, is accessible to everybody. And knowing the information about the plant and wanting to get that into the hands of the people, some of our scientists have begun to study extensively some of these plants to see how they can be formulated in such a way so that they can be packaged and be accessible to the public.
You just don't wake up and say, Eureka, I have found it. They would have learned from the people in the community what plants were used for what purpose. So you know all those things in your childhood because they were continually using the plants of nature to assist in what they were doing.
Ever since I was a child, my mom always said me go break a piece of bush to make tea if the tea bag run out. But what was I getting out of it? I had no clue. And sometimes people say it worked, some other people say it didn't work. So that's why I really did the research to find out if these plants actually work. So we started only making butterbrush, which is also known as Callistemon viminalis. And then we broadened and we focused on lemongrass. We focused on most of the herbs that are used by native Jamaicans to cure different ailments.
In addition to the showcase, students from the Dunrobin, Chetola Park, and the Rollington Town primary schools were scientists for a day as they participated in one of the institution's monthly and afternoon with a scientist sessions. Modeled around the Ministry of Education's academic calendar, the mandate of the program is to expose students to and encourage an appreciation for different disciplines of science through fun-filled scientific activities.
I've been promoting entrepreneurship, especially in the medicinal plant industry. So one of the things I do is to give back. So I volunteer even at my children's school. We have an entrepreneurial club where I teach them to make different products from plants.
I learned that they can use herbs to make soap. It was very exciting because I got to see what dangerous chemicals they use in it and how is it correct to go on the skin.
First, we had to put some coconut oil in like a metal cup. Then we had to put shea butter in it and melt it. And then we put it in sodium hydroxide. And it was very, very, very hot. I spilled it a couple times, but it was okay, just a little clean up. And it began to get thick, so I was like, what should I do now? And she was like, just mix it, it's normal. And then we got to put what we want in there. I put charcoal in there, and then I made a swirl in the mold. It was a very good experience.
I'm so happy our students were able to participate in the activity held here at the Institute, where they learn more about medicinal plants. I believe it's very important for them to know that the plants that are found right there in their backyards can be used for healing of ailments that they'll have, the common cold, whatever the ailment may be.
This is what I would like to engage the people in. Go back to their communities and learn how people lived, a generation which came out of slavery, could neither read nor write, and yet they were able to contain themselves and to live. We want the students to have some respect for the heritage of this country, because it is going to guide you to the future.
Water is also an important part of our natural environment, and its multifaceted nature is undeniable, from drinking to bathing, washing, and even swimming. Here's one way water can help us realize our dreams and unearth our talents.
I didn't start it here in Jamaica. It was started before me. I think when I came here, it was two clubs. I would say two clubs in Kingston. So I started it here in Port Antonio. 10 years ago, it wasn't a team. It was one swimmer only for a couple of years, and then kids started joining more and more. Started joining, and here's a team.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I love synchronized swimming because of the pretty swimsuits. I wanted to show off myself to other countries.
The reason why I'm doing synchronized swimming is because when I was younger, there's not really a lot of sports that was there, and I also love water.
Synchronized swimming is a very unique sport. It's different from everything else, and I like to stand out.
It's a tough experience, it's challenging in many cases. I like the fact that we get to go out a lot, we get to get exposed to different things, different cultures and stuff.
We really don't select the girls, we take everybody who comes and we give them a chance, and then we'll see who stays. Synchronized swimming is not the sport that you can do twice a week for 1 hour. It's a very complicated sport that you have to do as speed swimming. You have to be very good at speed swimming. You have to be very good at gymnastics. You have to do a ballet class sometimes, and of course synchronized swimming actually on land and in the pool.
Up there, don't turn, and then you walk out.
So the girls practicing 4 times a week, sometimes 5, and depending on the school schedule, of course.
The level of dedication is about, saying 1 to 10, it is about 8. Because it's not a lot of sports there's around that I can do. So doing synchro, it takes a lot of time to think about the things that you're going to do. Have about a duet and a solo. When it comes down to shows, it has about 12 different routines.
It's very hard to balance school and training because most of the times training finishes late-ish at night, so I will have to get home and sometimes study, and so I go to bed late, and it's kind of hard to wake up in the mornings.
This leg is great. This one is synchronizing about.
Synchronized swimming help you with development. It develops you physically and mentally too. I think the best advantage that they get being a swimmers is that they get in confidence. Knowing that you achieved something and you did something that many people cannot do, it gives you confidence and self-respect, and this is what the girls really need.
In the last few years, I've grown to the sports because when I was younger, I had my coach repeatedly saying, "Shari work, Shari work, Shari work." And I think before I reached about 16 or 15, I think I got better at that, because knowing that I'm the oldest in the group, I have to show example.
Usually here I'm making our routines and trying to make sure it fits the personality of the swimmer first and the skill level.
I do a lot of mixing up of routines, especially when it comes to like duets and teams, sometimes solo.
It's all I want to do. It's my life. I would love to be in the 2020 Olympic Games, doing my best, competing, hopefully to get a medal.
Competing at the Olympics will make more Jamaicans know that synchronized swimming is actually in Jamaica.
The devastation of conflict and war goes beyond those dead or wounded or even destroyed cities. Our environment is often a forgotten victim of war. Water becomes polluted, crops are destroyed, trees cut down, and animals killed to gain military advantage. This 24-hour period is an opportunity for everyone to reflect on the role of violence or war on damaging natural environments. It's also a day to discuss ways to limit environmental destruction caused by armed conflict. The United Nations is ensuring that action on the environment is part of conflict prevention and peacekeeping. So today, many people around the world are observing the day through a series of seminars, lectures, radio talks, and classroom activities. Join the movement and join us in helping to make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. And that's all the time we have for you on today's show, but if you missed anything, you can watch it all again on our website or our YouTube channel. Don't forget to keep up with us on our Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter pages. And remember to help preserve our natural environment in whatever way you can. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Theodore Henry. You take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.